Good evening, everyone. I would like to call to order the December 8, 2020 regular meeting of the Common Council. Carolyn, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Smith,
Here.
Councilor Bell,
Here.
Councilor Clark,
Here.
Councilor Herbstritt,
Here.
Councilor Hill, Councilor McKiernan,
Here.
Councilor Sullivan, Councilor Veach, Councilor Willingham.
Here.
We will now observe a moment of silence and be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Vice President Clark.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have before us the minutes of the November 24, 2020 special, regular, and work session minutes. Unless there are edits, changes, or deletions, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion.
Go ahead.
I'll second.
Oh, motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Just one noted abstention.
And one abstention. Councilor Bell. The next item on the agenda is a report of the mayor. It's that time of year where we recognize residents in the city of Winchester for their outstanding work. We normally award the Mayor's Excellence Award. This year, we have two awards that we will be giving out. These folks and businesses are nominated by people in the community, and many times they don't know that they've been nominated. So the first one is the recipient for the individual Mayor's Excellent Award, and I'll read what was sent in. The compassion for her community has moved her to stop the spread kindness, and instead face mask donation program. The program emerged in early April by sewing masks for her family and friends. When asked if they could pay her, she refused. After discussions with her husband, they agreed to offer recipients an opportunity to pay it forward. They directed all donations to the Shenandoah Arts Council. The Shenandoah Arts Board and staff embraced the vision, which grew out of concern for those who could not locate or afford a mask. Masks were offered free of charge with the request that recipients pay it forward to help cover costs of materials and shipping if and when they could. To date, there's been over 2,700 adult and child-sized masks being hand-sewn and delivered. The majority were distributed to our local community, with some being mailed throughout Virginia and beyond. Recipients include 2 senior living communities, medical offices, businesses, and compromised individuals. 90 September art boxes provided by local nonprofit Arte Libre to children in our community each included a child-sized mask, and new requests continue on to this day. I would like to award the 2020 Mayor's Excellent Award to Kyra Scala. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Would you like to say a few words?
Sure.
Go right ahead.
I just want to thank everyone for this award. It wouldn't have happened without the love of community and the people that reached back to us. My husband in particular was instrumental in cutting out probably 1,500 of those masks while I sewed, and a lot of people from the community reached out with supplies and helped us to reach this goal. So we just thought about all the people that couldn't or didn't have access to any masks, as we knew the hospitals were being taken care of by many guilds in the town. We just thought about the folks that needed to protect themselves so they wouldn't wind up in the hospital. So anyway, thank you very much.
No, thank you very much. The next award goes to a local business. This business not only serves delicious cups of coffee, but provides a multitude of benefits to the Winchester community. With creative ways for the cafe to give back to the community during COVID-19, the coffee shop has offered coffee bag sales on their online app that can be donated to a business assisting others through these times. The shop also offers for patrons to purchase a meal that can be donated to a person in need. This particular business, I know personally, it provides a safe place for everyone, regardless of race, color, national origin, age, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression, or religion. It has been open to the community. It has served us well. And the recipient of this award is the Hideaway Cafe. It's a long walk. Congratulations, Victoria. Would you like to say a few words?
I wasn't aware I was going to speak, so I'm just going to say thank you, and we always try to do our best. This is the little boss right here, so she always tells me to just do your best, and when you know better, do even better. So I appreciate this a lot.
Good.
Really, really meaningful award. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, take the plaques out of the. Hey, Amy, get them to take the plaques out of the plastic.
Yeah.
Take the plaque out of the plastic. So you can see it in the picture.
That's not part of it?
It is awfully pretty.
Save it.
There you go. Now you can actually see the thing.
It's COVID protected.
Oh, wow. There you go.
Thank you all. The next item I have on my report is a heartfelt one. Today is John Willingham's last meeting. I've known John for quite some time. I first met him as a liaison on the Old Town Development Board. It was many, many moons ago. And he's been great to work with. He is the true cross the lines bipartisan person you ever want to work with. And over the years, even before the council, I've confided in him on a lot of things, and he'll tell you what he thinks, and he'll give you an honest answer. He will be missed, and I appreciate your service to the city. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else has a few words for him?
I do. I'd like to express my appreciation to you, John, for these last 2 years being my mentor and partnering with me on efforts within Ward 4. I'll continue to yell at you as you walk by my house, but I do. I really want to thank you for everything you've offered in the last 2 years.
I just want to thank you, John. You know, candor and being forthright are extremely valuable qualities when we sit on this body. You have always been forthright. You have always told us like it is. And that's exactly what I need in a fellow counselor. I need people to be honest with me and tell me what they really think. And I never had to wonder or second guess when I had a conversation with you about any issue that came before us. And I really value that, and I'll miss you on the board.
Thank you.
John, I would echo certainly what others have said, and certainly have appreciated and valued the time that I've been on council with you, and you will definitely be missed. So wish you well in your future endeavors and hope to stay in touch.
John, do you want to say a few words?
Sure, thank you. Wow, what an experience. You know, you make a drive every Tuesday night coming here, and you sort of take it for granted until sort of the last one. So, you know, I had worked out what I was going to say in my head 14 different ways walking past Judy's house. But you know, the words that sort of came back to me over and over were thank you and gratitude. And I think that I'm so grateful for so many people for the opportunity that I've had here. So I really need to thank a few people. First and foremost, my wife and kids. My oldest daughter's 13. She has never seen me do anything, along with my other children, do anything other than being on council. And so, you know, they have had to make a sacrifice as a family, knowing that their dad was not going to be there almost every Tuesday with all the other things we have going on. So I know they wanted to be here tonight, so I'm just going to say hello to them, and I'll see them soon. I also need to say thank you to the citizens of our city. It has been such an amazing experience to be able to represent the Fourth Ward in the city, in this community, in different various capacities. And I will continue to do that in multitudes of different ways. But to sort of be a public servant and to know that you have to answer to somebody else beyond your colleagues in really an entire population of your city, and thinking through for things for them and trying to vote for the best interests of them, not just today but into the future. I think that's it's an amazing thing that I've been granted the ability to do. So I'm thankful and grateful for that. I'm extremely grateful and have a multitude of thank yous to the city staff. You know, when I started, I didn't know what I didn't know, and I thought I knew a lot of things that I didn't really know. But when you have folks like Mary Blow and Perry Eisenach and Tim Humans and Kelly Henshaw and Celeste Broadstreet, you get to learn really quickly. And it was, I can't say, you can't put into words the amount of things that I've learned here from all kinds of different topics that I probably never thought I was going to learn about water and sewer and planning and zoning and all these amazing things. So it has been a world-class education. And so I am a much more rounded person, professional, than I was when I started here 12 years ago. You know, I've had great experience personally, generally with the Winchester Star Media, going back to Eric Beidel, Vic Bradshaw, obviously Brian Bream, folks like that. So I know a lot of times we complain they don't get things right on a regular basis, but a lot of times they would call and ask for more information and things like that. So I do appreciate the fact that they were able to do that. I'm going to continue to be in the city. I'm going to continue to invest both my time, my money, and all the things that go along with making this a better place. And so I will continue to be in front of you, hopefully in a different capacity very soon for a multitude of different things. And last but not least, I do want to thank you all as my colleagues. I was able to represent you for 5 years as president of this body. Jeff Bittner teased me a long time ago, and he said, being president for 1 year is really 2 years of your life. So, David, you probably appreciate that more than anybody else. So I feel like I was here for 10 years just being president, but we went through a lot of different things while I was here, and I don't have any great, wisdom to leave you with other than I do have a couple of pieces of advice, and I hopefully, I know you've already heard me say them before, but continue to be bold, continue to take chances. I think that a lot of times staff will bring things to us, and sometimes either we'll get negative press about it, or there will be a handful of citizens that push back about it. But I can go through almost every experience that I've had on this body, whether it was Millwood changing that, two-way streets, Taylor Hotel, the downtown mall project, you name it. And ultimately, we knew it was in the best interest of the city. And so it was worth the flack, and it was worth having that personal wherewithal to say, I appreciate the comments, but I'm going to do what I think is in the best interest of the city. I drove by the park today, and I forgot about the tower that we had approved to be in the park. So there are things like that where I think that sometimes you really have to make tough decisions, but ultimately it's about doing what's in the best interest of the city and in the long term. And, the other thing I would just say is, don't forget what got us to the success that we have today, being a business-friendly city, having the great staff that interact and provide great customer service to our citizens. And that will continue to be able to provide us a competitive advantage where we don't have it from green space and all the other things, from taxes, et cetera. So with that, I just want to conclude by saying, again, thank you. It's been an awesome experience. I was looking back at all the city managers I've worked with today. I started with Brandon Godfrey, and I'm going out with Dan Hoffman. And again, I just want to say thank you to everybody. I'm eternally grateful for the opportunity to serve as a councilor for the city of Winchester. So thank you.
Thank you, John. That's all I have for my report. The next report is the report of the city manager.
Thank you very much. I will start off with good news, and that's from the Valley Assistance Network. You got a more detailed report in your email earlier today, but I wanted to highlight that between September 14th and December 4th, we were able to prevent 95 evictions and 194 utility disconnects using CARES Act funding. On the public services front, the city has been awarded $263,620.44 in additional CARES Act funding from the state to continue to help pay past due water and sewer bills for individuals impacted by COVID-19. Letters and applications are going to go out, mailed out to all customers with past due accounts, similar to what we've done in the past. Customers that are eligible for this program must return the application or call us to apply. The new trash cans that we've been talking about for a little while now, they're all being delivered and actually should be out by the end of the day tomorrow. So most of your residents in the pilot areas are going to be getting them, so you might get some questions about that as well. On the fire side, the Joint Training Center out at the Fire Rescue Training Facility that we share with the county, we've broken ground on that. It's a joint project between the city and the county. And the Fire Recruit School is now underway with 9 trainees in the class. Holiday Lane that you've all seen outside has been well received. In the first 7 days, we had 2,368 cars come through to see it. And that's we're averaging about between 3 or 4 people in each car. So that's about 8,000 people that have taken advantage of it. We're still working out some kinks, making sure the signage is clear. And it is closed on rainy days, and we're continuing to improve it. It's our first year, but it has been very well received. And
Can you explain what the Holiday Lane is?
Holiday Lane is the light display here in Jim Barnett Park that we set up somewhat in lieu of a Christmas parade because we couldn't hold it because of COVID. So I have to give credit to staff for coming up with the great idea of doing a light show here in the park. So it'll be running now through the end of the month, I believe. I think I can't remember the exact last day, but it's every day between 5 and 7, and Santa is here on Fridays and Saturdays typically. Speaking of holidays, since this is our last meeting of December, I'm going to roll really quickly through the closures. Christmas and New Year's, the city will be closed. City offices will be closed. Wintran, Courts, Jim Barnett Park, the building we're in now. The rec center will also be closing early on the 23rd and the 31st. Trash collection on Friday the 25th and Friday, January 1st is moved to the prior Wednesday. Yard waste collection is canceled those weeks. Trash collection on Thursday, December 24th is on schedule. Undecorated live Christmas trees will be collected curbside January 6th through the 13th, with regular yard waste. And January 13th is the last day for yard waste collection until March 10th. And all this information is available on the city website. So if any of your constituents or any residents out there didn't get that down, just go to the city's website. I'm going to end on a less than happy note, and that is, although we appreciate everybody making alternative plans around Thanksgiving in order to prevent the spread of COVID, it's definitely not the time to let up. Our positivity rate as of yesterday morning was still close to 12%, and sadly we did lose another resident over this past weekend, bringing our total deaths from COVID to 5. So although the vaccine distribution is drawing near, the city and public health officials from the Public Health District are encouraging everyone to stay vigilant over the next several weeks and practice the 3 Ws. And for any information folks need about about COVID or updated information, they should visit the city's website. That's the end of the city manager's report. I do want to mention that the city attorney is not here physically with us tonight. She is virtually here right to my left on this laptop. She can hear everything you're saying. So if you do have a question for the attorney at some point, there might be a delay. She will type up a response and I will relay it to you. So just bear that in mind if you need the city's attorney assistant during this meeting, and she has no report for this evening.
Right. Thank you, sir. The next item is public hearings, and the first item on that is the second reading, an ordinance to amend Chapter 20, Article 2 of the Winchester City Code, adding Section 20-20 through 26 pertaining to the designation of the police department to enforce trespass notices on private property. Good evening, Chief Piper.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Nothing's changed since this came before you previously. This is, as a reminder, a proposed ordinance to amend the city code, bringing us in line with state code to allow officers to act on behalf of folks who request us to do so, to trespass and enforce trespassing on private property. There's been no additions. We've prepared the general order, which should be included in your packet, as well as the forms that the city attorney has helped us complete, and we're ready to roll this out if approved.
Okay. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on this matter? Okay. There being none, Mr. Hoffman, were there any comments received online?
No, sir, there were not.
Thank you. I will now close the public hearing. What is the pleasure of the body?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilor Herbstreit and a second from Councilor Clark. Carolyn, would you please call the roll?
Councilor Bell,
As I was not on the council at the time this was discussed, and I will abstain.
Councilor Clark,
Yes.
Councilor Herbstreit,
Yes.
Councilor McKiernan,
Yes.
Councilor Willingham,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes. And that passes. Thank you, sir.
Thank
Have
you,
a good
sir.
evening.
You too, thank you.
The next item on the agenda is a second reading, an ordinance to authorize the additional appropriation of funds for necessary expenditures of the city of Winchester, Virginia for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021. Good evening, Celeste.
Good evening, Council. Mayor Smith, I don't have any updates. Everything's the same. So
Okay.
I'll be happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on this matter? Mr. Hoffman, were there any comments received online?
No, sir, there were not.
I will now close the public hearing. What is the pleasure of the body?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilor Willingham and a second from Councilor McKiernan. Carolyn, would you please call the roll?
Councilor Bell,
Again, abstain.
Councilor Clark,
Yes.
Councilor Herbstreit,
Yes.
Councilor McKiernan,
Yes.
Councilor Willingham,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes, and that is forwarded. Thank you, Celeste.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. The next item is also a second reading, an ordinance granting an easement to Chantel for telecommunications lines on city-owned property at 1340 South Pleasant Valley Road and 1400 South Pleasant Valley Road. Good evening, Mr. Eisenhart.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. I don't have anything new on this item, but I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on this matter? Mr. Hoffman, did we receive any comments online?
No, sir, we did not.
I will close the public hearing. What is the pleasure of the body?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilor McKiernan and a second from Councilor Herbstreit. Carolyn, would you please call the roll?
Councilor Bell,
Abstain.
Councilor Clark,
Yes.
Councilor Herbstreit,
Yes.
Councilor McKiernan,
Yes.
Councilor Willingham,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes, and that is forwarded. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Have a good evening, Perry. The next item on the agenda is a request of Hamante Shah for conditional use permit to allow for a single-family detached dwelling per section 8-2-11 of the Winchester zoning ordinance located at 2645 Valley Avenue, Zone Highway Commercial District with Corridor Enhancement Overlay, presented by Frank Hopkins. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. I have no additions to my item as well. I can give you a quick refresher if you need. If not, I can take questions.
Thank you. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on this matter? Mr. Hoffman, were there comments received online?
No, sir.
I will now close the public hearing on this. What is the pleasure of the body?
Motion to, I'm sorry.
Go, no, go ahead.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilor Clark and a second from Councilor McKiernan. Carolyn, would you please call the roll?
Councilor Bell,
Abstain.
Councilor Clark,
Yes.
Councilor Herbstreit,
Yes.
Councilor McKiernan,
Yes.
Councilor Willingham,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes, and that is forwarded. Thank you, sir. You have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
You too.
The next item is public comments. Now is the time on our agenda where if anyone who wishes to address council, you have 3 minutes. Please state your name and address. Carolyn, do we have a sheet over there on the podium? Okay. There are no signatures. If there's anyone here who would like to address council on anything? If not, I will close public comments. Sorry. Mr. Hoffman, did you receive anything online?
Mayor, I did receive one online. It is part of your packet. I will attempt to read it within the 3 minutes typically allotted. I believe I can roughly hit that mark if you wish me to read it.
And Carolyn, can you time them? Go ahead, sir.
Here we go. Subject, 441 Linden Drive Development, RZ-20-387. This was submitted to Tim Humans. Dear Tim, on behalf of HDP, the applicant, we want to provide responses to some of the comments from the city council members made at the recent work session on 11/24/20 and also commentary on our rezoning request. Please convey to the council the following. From an urban planning perspective, this is a low to moderate density development that combines senior adult housing and low-rise townhome uses with a large public park. It reflects principles outlined in the city's comprehensive plan to provide opportunities for vibrant, high-quality, mixed-income, higher-density housing of a diverse range in suitable living environments in order to facilitate economic and social stability, end quote. City of Winchester Comprehensive Plan as adopted May 10th, 2011. The proposed Linden Drive development will not generate a substantial number of weekday AM, weekday PM, or daily trips and will not adversely impact the transportation network. Traffic assessment, Kittleson and Associates, Reston, Virginia, dated 11/13/20. Site driveways are projected to operate acceptably and well below capacity with minimal impact to Linden Drive traffic with or without a private gated access to Campus Boulevard. We don't need the Campus Boulevard connection shown on the plan to be a non-binding alternative design to alleviate traffic on Linden. The City of Winchester cannot and should not require a developer to provided driveways, easements, or other rights of way on land which the developer does not own and for which it is out of their control. Regarding the alternate roadway options that require agreement from adjacent property owners, Shenandoah University and Valley Health, we have been and will continue to use our best efforts to obtain such agreements, but the 441 Linden development cannot be contingent upon such roadway options. It must stand on its merits without regard to these options. The application should not be characterized as incomplete because such agreements are not in place. We include several traffic control features at our cost, such as best practice mini roundabouts at Linden Drive / active adult driveway intersection for efficient traffic performance. Mini roundabouts are best suited to environments where speeds are already low and environmental constraints would preclude the use of a larger roundabout with a raised central island and are provided to alleviate traffic and impact on the neighborhood. The 441 Linden development will have a positive net fiscal impact of more than $500,000 to the general fund City of Winchester. It takes a tax-exempt vacant school property and creates taxable revenue along with removing a potential eyesore from the neighborhood. Source, Economic and Fiscal Impact Report for 441 Linden Drive, Camelwin Associates, Richmond, Virginia, dated 10/8/20. As Winchester continues to grow, the town-owned portion of the development will provide a mix of unit types at sales prices likely to be affordable for many singles, couples, families in a high-demand environment without a strong supply of detached homes on the market. This additional supply will help to keep Winchester an affordable place to live and work. We appreciate the opportunity to inform the council of these important facts about our development and ask for consideration of our application by advancing the request to a first reading and scheduling a public hearing and vote as soon as possible. Sincerely, Andy Palick, cell phone number 414-331-4671. Email apalick@hdpartners.com.
Thank you. The next item is the consent agenda, and there are no items on the consent agenda, so we move on to the agenda. The first item is FY 2020 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report Audit Presentation by Mr. John Eldridge, CPA, Partner Brown and Edwards, LLP. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Good to see you all tonight. I have the privilege to go over your financial report with you this year. And there are three distinct components. We have to audit the financial statements. We have to audit compliance with laws and regulations of the Commonwealth. And then we have to audit compliance with federal laws. That's the single audit. The part of that is not done yet is the single audit piece. And the reason being, the CARES money that came through the city, the federal government has not given the guidance yet on how to test that. They've kept dragging their feet. We thought we'd get something in November. We thought it was going to come out the 1st of December. Now they're saying December 30th. Well, the problem is you have to get your report to the state by December 15th. So what we're going to do is, where it says draft here, we can go ahead and issue this report without the federal piece in it, get it to the state so you meet all the requirements. So nothing to be aware of. And every locality in Virginia is having to do it that way. So it's not something unique to the city of Winchester. So I wanted to say that at the beginning. That's why you see draft on here. It's not anything your staff hasn't done. It's the federal government just haven't given us the guidance yet. So with that being said, I just want to point a few things out. In your packet, I think you have an electronic version. And I believe there are 262 pages. We're certainly not going to cover all 262.
Thank you.
I want to point out just some high-level things. The first being, and if you had your packet, it would be on page 43 of 262, is our opinion on the financial statements. We are going to issue what's known as an unmodified or a clean opinion. That's as good as it gets. So you all had a clean opinion on your financial report this year. So that's definitely what you want to shoot for. The next thing I want to point out to you all is, if you looked at your general fund, we get a lot of questions from clients saying, all right, how did things look this year? We know the latter part of the year we got hit pretty hard with COVID. We know it affected some of our tax revenue that comes in. How did we end the year? And if you looked at the general fund balance, at the end of the year, you had just over $21.5 million of general fund unassigned fund balance. What that equates to, if you looked in just numbers per se, and looked at the months that are sitting there, you all have right at 2.09 months of reserves in unreserved or unassigned fund balance, meaning if the city didn't collect another dime, how long could we make it? And yours is 2.09. GFOA, the Governmental Finance Officers Association, the bare bones minimum they say localities should have is 2. So you're above the minimum. The goal is 5. So the thing I would just tell you, you all are doing a fantastic job with your city. I would just say, let's continue to monitor fund balance. Can we build it up a little bit? How can we look at that? So just wanted to point that out. And oftentimes, again, this is public information. People want to know how I compare to my peers. Okay, so for example, City of Charlottesville, they're sitting on 2.4 months, so not a whole lot more than you all. City of Roanoke, they're at 1.58, so you're certainly above them. And then you've got somewhere like Harrisonburg that's at 3.8. So I tell you that to let you know it's a pretty broad spectrum there. You're above the minimum, but I would just again tell you to continue to look at your general fund balance and see what we can do there. This past year, looking at budget, you all did a very good job in a tough year. You had budgeted general fund revenues at almost $90 million. It was $89.9 million. The actual revenue that came in was $89.5 million. So you were just a hair under what you had budgeted for revenues. However, knowing the expenses, and this year would be a tough year, you all had budgeted $89.3 million in expenditures. Your actual was only $84.9 million. So you were quite a bit below what you had budgeted for expenditures. So I do want to point that out to you all. Y'all did a fantastic job there of monitoring those. Also, as part of the audit, we look at the water and sewer fund because that's part of the city. One of the things that a government should always do when you have what they call an enterprise fund, you want to make sure the fees in place cover the cost of that fund. Your water and sewer fund this year had an operating income of $9.2 million. And again, that is before you're paying interest and you have some other costs. But the reason I say that is your user fees and your charges currently in place are covering the cost of those operations. It's not a case where you're having to borrow money from the general fund to pay for your water and sewer. So the folks that are using the water and sewer are paying for the water and sewer, and that's how it's supposed to be. So you're doing a good job on that. In the report you have in the back of it, I'm certainly not going to go over it in detail, but you can see the financial statements for the schools are in there as well. The schools for the year ended June 30th, 2020 had a net change in operating fund balance of $517,000. So they had a positive number this past year for their fund balance. In the financial report, too, if you spend some time looking at it, there are a lot of historical trends in there. One of the ones I like to look at looks at your fund balance over time. And I mentioned to you all that the general fund balance was $21.5 million. If you went back all the way to 2011, the number was $18.6 million. So it really hasn't grown a lot over those years. So that's why I keep mentioning we really want to look at fund balance. How can we grow that and build a little more reserve there? And then lastly, the thing I will mention to you all on the financial report itself, there is a graph in the back or a chart. It's table number 4, and it's page 219 of your out of 262. And it shows expenditures, how they compare this year to 2011, as well as revenues. The revenues have gone from $78 million to $106 million during that period, and expenditures have gone from $79 million to $123 million. So this past year, expenditures were up. A lot of that relates to capital outlay. Y'all had almost $11 million in capital outlay this year. So needless to say, in doing all that, looking at all the numbers, testing compliance with the state laws and the requirements of the state, there were no findings at all. There were no matters of non-compliance that we have to make you aware of, so that's a good thing. And then again, finally, I just want to mention the federal programs we've tested to date, there also have been no findings at all. We're just waiting for that last little piece to come in from the federal government. Once it's there, we can finish that. The good news is you have 9 months until that's due. So that's not really due till March 30th. But again, the state requirement is December 15th, and you all will meet that with no problem at all. And again, lastly, I'll just mention, you all have a fantastic staff. Ms. Blow, Ms. Broadstreet, and the rest of the team there make this a very smooth process, and it's always a pleasure to work with them and do this. But again, happy to answer any questions. The key takeaways, no compliance findings, we're almost done, and you had a clean audit opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Aldridge. Are there any questions for Mr. Aldridge? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And you have a great holiday.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the first reading, an ordinance repealing and replacing Article 14.1 of the zoning ordinance of the City of Winchester, Virginia, by establishing floodplain districts, by requiring the issuance of permits for development, and by providing factors and conditions for variances to the terms of the ordinance. Mr. Eisenach and Ms. Henshaw, good evening.
Good evening, thank you. We don't have anything new to present, but if you have any questions, Kelly is here to answer them.
Do we have any further questions for Kelly?
Good job.
There being none, there is no action needed since this is the first reading. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was easy enough.
That's how we like it.
Yeah, Perry, you're going to stay right here.
Yes.
The next item is an ordinance, it's also a first reading, an ordinance granting an easement to the Laurel Center to allow building improvements to extend out into the city's right-of-way at 430 North Cameron Street. Mr. Eisenach.
Thank you again. Once again, I don't have anything new, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Perry? Nope. As again, this is also a first reading and no action is needed. Thank you, Perry.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is also a first reading, TA-20-576, an ordinance amending Articles 9 through 1 through 4 and 9-2-20 of the Winchester zoning ordinance pertaining to by right and conditional use permits for multifamily structures in the Central Business District. The amendment lowers the amount of multifamily units that can be built by right and allows for a greater diversity of bedroom types in a conditional use permit presented by Frank Hopkins, zoning administrator. Good evening, Frank.
Good evening. So there were some changes I've made since last meeting, just to respond to some of the feedback. There was concerns over the conditional use permit portion of this and what requirements would be made of developers when they come to submit for their CUP. So I changed the existing language on the first requirement, which said whether you needed to have your proffers together by the time you came to CUP. So I've changed that to a copy of any existing or any planned proffers before they come before City Council. So, if a developer comes and they would like to have, 55 and older community or something like that, I think that's something that's very pertinent for City Council to know. Again, the other thing that I changed was, criticism was on number 3, so that was a draft management plan for the trash service. So it said you'd have to have your trash service plan together by the time you came to CUP. Simply asking for a draft plan, just an acknowledgement that you understand that you're building a multifamily project. It's not taken care of by general trash service, so you need to have some sort of plan by the time you come to City Council. Those are the 2 changes that I made to make it a little bit more friendly for developers. I would say there's also the public interest piece that certainly this is going to be in B1. It's going to be downtown. The projects that might utilize this are probably going to be pretty few and far between. We're talking about small parcels and many units, the potential to have many units. So the kind of outsized externalities that could occur are something that certainly would want to be vetted before council. So those are the reasons why we've kept some of them in there, just trying to soften the language in response to the criticism of last time, but still trying to make sure that packages get brought to city council with information that invariably city council will want to know and ask about. I'll take questions.
Are there any questions for Frank? Councilor Clark.
Thank you for bringing this to us, Frank. Are there any provisions in this, or any encouragement to developers to look at doing any kind of green projects such as solar panels or semi-permeable parking structures?
So this is simply opening up the ability to go over the cap, right? We did consider combining those two concepts, and right now, working its way through Planning Commission is the follow-up item that has extra bonus density items in it. Part of that is the existing B1 regulations have bonuses for lead development. We've added NGBS Green and Earthcraft, which are more just development-friendly types that were in the PUD that you saw earlier this year. To my knowledge, I'm not so sure about the solar part. I think that may strictly be in the PUD, but certainly when that comes here, if that's something that you would like to see, it'd be simple to add.
Okay. And the other question is there anything for the bonuses for affordable housing for people who don't have the same amount of money as someone who's affluent?
Not currently in the ordinance 4B1, I don't think. I'll have to check on that. And I don't believe in the plan. Again, very easy to add, was in the PUD, is not brought over in the current item that is working its way through Planning Commission. But again, this is separate just to open up the possibility of going over a certain number of units.
Thank you.
Councilor Willingham.
Thanks. Thanks, Frank. I know you've done a lot of work on this. I guess from the development side, I know we talked a lot about this last time. I'm trying to say, what's required to get the CUP versus the things I'm going to have to do later on in the site plan.
Right.
And it still looks like, the trash plan and some of the other things, I know you're asking for just a proposed plan, but, having gone through these before, 100 things could change. And, when you're going through this process, you're really trying to get something approved that makes, sense for everybody. I just feel like, asking two more things that could potentially dynamically change by the time it gets to site plan, and it's already required at the site plan. I'm just trying to figure out if we can. I know you guys are going to talk about doing a planning and development committee or whatever it's going to be, but I think there really should be two specific things is, one, to get it approved, what does council absolutely need to see, and then what needs to be approved as part of the site plan. And I think to ask, some of the trash things and some of the other things, I think kind of put it a little bit before the, cart before the horse, because things could change dynamically and this board would never see it. And so I don't personally think it should matter to you all where the trash goes and all those things, because it has to be done. I don't think it should matter that there's an HOA in place because it's legally required to be put in place. But there are things regarding the CUP that this body should care about. And I just, again, going back, not knowing exactly what the developer needs and doesn't need, I really think you guys should really focus on trying to break those two pieces up and to separate them to what makes logical sense. So that's just my opinion, but I think it's something you guys should take into consideration next month.
Understood.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else? There is no action on this. This is also a first reading. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Carolyn, would you please call the roll?
Councilor Bell?
Yes.
Councilor Clark?
Yes.
Councilor Herbstreit?
Yes.
Councilor McKiernan?
Yes.
Mayor Smith?
Yes. We are now adjourned. We will reconvene. Did you?
You can call my name, that's okay.
He's still here.
I called your name.
I didn't hear you.
Oh.
It's yes, I'm definitely in favor of adjournment.
I would like to call to order the December 8th, 2020 work session of the Common Council. Carolyn, would you please call the roll?
Councilor Bell?
Here.
Councilor Clark?
Here.
Councilor Herbstreit?
Here?
Councilor Hill? Councilor McKiernan?
Here.
Councilor Sullivan? Councilor Veach? Councilor Willingham? Mayor Smith?
Here. The first item on the agenda is a motion to clarify that 0-2020-63 RZ-20-387 an ordinance to rezone 22.7 acres of land at 441 Linden Drive from low-density residential district to low-density residential district with planned unit development overlay district be continued to January 12, 2021, the City Council work session. This item was continued at the November 24th, 2020 work session for 30 days. However, the next City Council meeting will be held in January. Do we need a motion on that? We do, don't we? Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a motion to remove 0-2020-56 RZ-2379, an ordinance to rezone 6.23 acres of land. Hold on a second. Sorry. Land at 2022 Spring Street from Highway Commercial District to Highway Commercial District with Planned Unit Development Overlay District, subject to proffers.
So moved.
Get a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The next item is RZ-20-379, an ordinance to rezone 6.23 acres of land at 222 Spring Street from Highway Commercial District to Highway Commercial District with Planned Unit Development Overlay District, subject to proffers. The development plan for this PUD overlay zoning calls for 198 multifamily residential units, 31.8 units per acre, and 2 commercial buildings along the Spring Street frontage. The comprehensive plan identifies that this area as a redevelopment site where PUD is encouraged. Presented by Mr. Humans, Planning Director. Good evening, Tim.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. There are no changes, substantive changes to the request. I do have a few of the slides that you saw, a more detailed presentation. I don't intend to go through them, but I have them available if there are specific questions that councilors have. I also want to point out that Mr. Ty Lawson and Mr. William Park, representatives of the application, are here if you have any questions for them as well. Be glad to take any questions you have.
Are there any questions from Mr. Humans? Councilor Herbstreit.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Tim. As I had expressed at the last meeting, I still have concerns regarding traffic. I know the information that was provided in the packet has a lot of details, I think specifically regarding pedestrian, and I think that Pleasant Valley, Millwood, Jubal Early, I mean, those roads, just the traffic on those roads gets really intense, and we're talking about potentially, you know, a couple hundred people that are going to be now living in this area, and I'm just concerned on how that's going to impact Pleasant Valley and that whole congested area right there.
If I could offer kind of a quick response, of course, the city of Winchester embraces new urbanism in our adopted comprehensive plan and council's strategic plan. So if this land was not approved for the residential development, you would have even more retail, commercial, non-residential development, which would attract more people there during peak hours. This zoning change allows you to mix uses and spread the peak hour traffic out over a larger period of time, because it's not all one type of use, like all residential or all commercial.
So I guess another question, if I may, with that then, so again, the information that was provided regarding the crosswalk, there was a recommendation to add an additional crosswalk. So I guess, another question is, are there recommendations to address any potential traffic issues in again, that area that's very congested and, yeah, maybe a good % of the time, people can work their way through it, but I'm thinking about certainly around the holidays, it just gets so backed up, and trying to even get 20 cars out of one of those driveways or at one of those lights is going to be problematic. So is there any recommendations with regards to traffic other than pedestrian, traffic flow? And I don't know. I mean, it just didn't seem like that it was as much detail.
So Mr. Perry Eisenach did review the traffic impact analysis with me, and he does feel that there probably are some adjustments that the public services staff will want to make to the traffic signal there at Spring Street and Pleasant Valley Road, but they felt like the traffic impact analysis was accurate, and that the impacts arising from the rezoning could be addressed with routine kinds of adjustments that city staff makes.
Okay, and then I guess one final question is with regards to bicyclists, if there's a plan, because I would think that that's pretty unsafe for bicyclists, and I know that was, I think, something having, if there are SU students there, to be able to actually ride their bike to school. Is that something that Perry's also looking at, is some type of a bicycle, I don't know if you can put a bike lane in there or not, but is that part of what he's looking at as well?
To my knowledge, he's not looking at any dedicated bike lanes or facilities out along Pleasant Valley or Millwood. But again, looking at the full functionality of the signal and the phasing in terms of dedicated pedestrian and/or bike crossing across Pleasant Valley Road, that would be part of the fine-tuning that they would do if they find that there is a high volume of cyclists or pedestrians.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Councilor McKiernan.
Hello, Tim, thank you for bringing this to us. I'm excited to see that you are pursuing Virginia Housing Authority financing, and that this would then mandate that there are workforce and lower income housing. I'd like to hear from the developer on their vision for that.
Yes, William Park with Pinnacle Construction Development Corporation, Charlottesville, Virginia. To answer your question, and I'm going to back up just a little bit, one of the things we're doing here obviously is working within your new ordinance or the density bonus, right? And we've gone in and used 5 or 6 of these incentives that we have there, and the first one we're using is your density bonus, where you have 5% of affordable housing, which is at 80% of the area median income. We're suggesting we're probably going to take that even farther. And the reason I say that is because we've been in discussions with Virginia Housing, and Virginia Housing was certainly interested in the ordinance that you all have passed, because it further develops what their mission is, okay? And so they can't give us a commitment on financing now at this point because we don't have the rezoning, but assuming that we go forward with them on the financing, then we will also request a resolution from you all that will allow us to use that financing. And in doing so, utilizing that financing, now we go from 5% to 20% of the affordable housing, which is at the same income range that you all have in your incentive, which is at the 80% of area median income.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Say it again.
Tim, thank you for the clarification of the fencing that's proposed on page 68 of the PDF. I still have the same concern about the way this development shakes out with the fence. I recognize that this is the property that the developer would own and control, but I still feel like that fence should go, parallel to Spring Street all the way down to Millwood. I assume that would be on the property of the gentleman that lives on Greystone Terrace in the last house. But I'd like to see us try to explore a way in which the developer could pay for that fence to go all the way to Millwood Avenue, and it would have to be in concert or in agreement with the landowner or the homeowner on Greystone Terrace. I just see a lot of problems with having a fence that stops at the end of a cul-de-sac and having that space open, because I can't imagine that people aren't going to walk across the cul-de-sac, the grass right there, across the cul-de-sac and go up and down Greystone Terrace. I think the other thing you're going to see is people parking at the end of Greystone Terrace and then walking down over to the development. In a worst-case scenario, you're going to see people hop the curb, because that curb is only going to be 6 inches tall, and in any vehicle with ground clearance, you can just hop that curb and go right over Greystone Terrace like it's a through street. So I see a myriad of problems with this proposal as it's illustrated. I understand that it's not the developer's property, but I think we have to work with the citizens in the neighborhood to make this a functioning project, rather than, it goes to the letter of the law, but we're not worried about what's really going to happen. I see a lot of problems there. Thank you for addressing the issues with the affordable housing. I think that it would be wonderful to take this from 5 to 20%. And so we certainly want to encourage that. And I think I can speak for myself. I cannot speak for the whole body, but I think there are some of my peers who would be excited to issue a resolution in favor of receiving financing from an organization that can help you go from 5 to 20% for affordable or workforce housing. So I've been pleased to hear that. The only thing I don't see in this development, apart from this fencing and neighbor issue that I had mentioned, is any kind of proposals for green considerations. I don't mean green space, but I mean the same things I've talked about before with any of the developments: semi-permeable paving, solar panels, cisterns, or rainwater capture type of things that we can use for watering plants and things. I don't see any of those things in this proposal, and that's something I would look for in future proposals. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. President, if you want a response to any of that, I think Mr. Ty Lawson could certainly address the issue of the fencing being extended beyond where it's shown as far as the red line.
Yes, and I did see there was a proffer in there dated 12/6/20, so that has been updated. But if he would like to speak to that, it may have addressed some of the concerns. So, Mr. Lawson, good evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. We did this, and I greatly appreciate Mr. Clark's comment. This comment, and among others, was brought up and discussed, and we have agreed. Short answer is we've agreed to install a fence all the way around in between Allen, to go even between Allen and Goodwill. Tim was kind enough to coordinate with Perry to confirm that we could do that, because it's your all's property. And Mr. Park is here, and he can speak more to the detail of it, but long and short of it is we did agree to do that. There is a sidewalk break. as you know, and so that won't be gated and blocked off. People will still be able to walk back and forth, but the red line, if you will, we've already agreed to bring it around. And Mr. Park can talk with you more about the green initiatives. Then there, actually, I think that was part of the incentives that were sought and applied for as part of this. And I do, not to overload you with material, but we do also have a handout that goes through in greater detail, if you care to review, how these points and many of the others that were raised at the last work session they were great and very insightful points, and I wanted you all to know that not only did staff go over those, but also Planning Commission, and we did meet with the neighbors on several occasions, which resulted in revisions along the way that we believe is a very strong application, and most importantly addresses your all's comments. But Mr. Park?
Can you just leave those packets there with Carolyn? And
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, and to follow up on a couple of questions there, I think with, the fencing, sure, whatever we can work out with Tim is fine. One of the things that we want to be careful of too, we didn't want to preclude people who live in that cul-de-sac who may want to walk through the cul-de-sac like they do now to get to the retail commercial. So there was some concern about that too, as you think about it. And I understand the question, there was some concern about parking in the cul-de-sac. One of the things to note is, we're providing structured parking, which is one of the incentives or the bonus incentives here. And currently with our structured parking, we have about 40% more parking that is required by ordinance. So I think that's very important to note. And then lastly, to answer your question on the green building, one of the incentives that we are using is a green building designation with National Green Building, and we intend to use the silver designation. And we've used this a number of times in some of our other developments.
Thank you.
very much. Are there any other questions? Councilor Bell.
I have a question in review of the school-age children density in the report. The developments you're identifying by comparison, are these amounts of enrollment or school-age children the projected amounts, or were these actually verified post-construction?
Thank you, Mr. Bell. They're actual numbers.
Okay, so verified post-construction.
Post-construction, and several of them are Pinnacle projects. We actually know who's living in the property in real time.
Okay.
We've also, working on other projects, city schools have been very helpful to verify, because you all know where students live, they don't give us names or anything like that, but they're actually able to verify the number of children, if any, that reside in these market rate projects. So if you all ever need to look at that, your schools can give you incredibly detailed numbers. And the net of it is, in the market rate projects, the numbers are very, very low.
Thank you, sir. Tim.
Yes.
The Planning Commission forwarded this with a favorable recommendation?
They did, yes.
And what was the vote?
I believe it was 5-1.
Okay.
It was 7-0.
Was that the other one? Let me see here. October 20th meeting, the commission unanimously forwarded it.
That's what I thought.
Sorry, thank you.
No, thank you for that. And the reason I brought that up is because we have people on boards and commissions that work very hard to get things right before they send it to us, and they ask all the questions. They do all the hard work. A lot of times we'll have a few more questions to ask, but serving on these boards and commissions, I know how tedious the work they do, and I appreciate it. And I think there's only been maybe a couple of times that some things have come from the planning commission that I may have questioned. But for the most part, I take their recommendations very well, and I appreciate the work that they do. I will be supporting this, and I know that there are a couple of concerns that my colleagues have. I hope that these can be addressed, especially with the traffic. And I think some of Councilor Clark's questions were addressed. And I did notice that, as I said, that in the packet, some of the fencing was addressed as well. And so with that, what is the pleasure of the body?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I mean, what are we approving here? We're approving the rezoning?
Yes, we are.
No, I'm
For it
sorry,
to-
I believe this is to forward it
Yeah,
for the first reading?
yeah,
Approving to
Yes.
forward to?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Thank you.
yeah.
Okay, all right, yes, yes.
Any opposed? So that has been forwarded. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, sorry.
Tim, if you're able, could you bring an illustration?
Councilor Clark.
I'm sorry, could I ask him a question, please?
Yes.
If it's possible, if we could get an illustration of the portion of the fence which is not on the applicant's land, which is either on city-owned land or the adjacent neighbors?
So can you ask him afterwards? Since we've
I'm sorry.
already
Thank you.
approved this? Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Yumas.
Thank you.
The next item is a resolution amending the boards and commissions committee charter and creating a planning and economic development committee. So the proposed resolution for boards and commissions, it would amend the boards and commissions committee charter, adding certain responsibilities to the committee's purview to include reviewing, evaluating, updating, and/or terminating various city memorandum of understandings. These duties were previously assigned to a council-directed body, which is no longer active. 2 years ago, we asked that council review the MOUs. They weren't. And looking at what we have, so we have over 100 MOUs that are either expired, termed out, the status are unknown. Some are, as far as I know, that are there with signatures missing. So we would review all these MOUs and MOAs to make sure that they are intact and up to date. And these MOUs go back many decades, and we need to see if they're relevant as well. Also, with this, we're asking that we establish a Planning and Economic Development Committee and adopt the committee's charter as provided in the proposed resolution. The purpose of this committee would be to review and deliberate matters involving the subjects of planning, zoning, and economic development, and to make the appropriate referrals and reports on those matters to full Common Council. This committee is similar to a previous council committee which served the same purpose. There were committees before I came on, and many of us came on, that were addressing some of the items that have come before us. For example, in our last meeting, when we almost had a 45-minute to an hour presentation on one item. Those kind of items will be addressed in that committee, and asking some of the same questions that were asked in our regular meeting. And we will try to get all those addressed prior to it coming to council. Are there any questions? If there aren't any questions, what is the pleasure of the body?
Motion to approve?
1 second. Dan, can you ask Melissa if we need a separate motion, since there's one is an addendum and the other one is a creation? Or to, yes.
She is providing a response now. She says, not unless conflict of votes.
Okay. So we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That moves forward. And the next item is a motion to adjourn. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I want to wish everyone a happy holiday, and we'll see you in the new year. Stay safe, and remember to social distance and wear your mask. Thank you.